All right, so you want to know how coffee went from a few beans in Ethiopia to well, pretty much the entire planet.
Sounds like a pretty ambitious deep dive.
It is. But we've got tons of research ready to go.
And I think we can really brew up some serious insights, too.
I love that.
So ready to get started?
Absolutely. And I think the best place to start is with that legend of Kaldi, the Ethiopian goat herder, who noticed his goats were acting a little, well, strange.
Ah, yes, Kaldi and his unusually energetic goats.
Exactly. They were eating berries from a specific tree,
And wouldn't sleep.
full of energy after munching on these berries.
It's one of those classic aha moments,
Totally.
Kaldi, curious guy, decided to try the berries himself.
And what happened?
Well, he felt that same energizing effect, of course.
So that's how coffee was discovered. Just a goat herder and his restless goats.
That's the legend, at least.
Incredible to think that, a simple observation like that sparked this, well, global phenomenon.
It really is.
But the story doesn't end there, does it?
Oh, definitely not.
He brought these berries to some monks.
And they weren't exactly thrilled about them at first.
Well, yeah, imagine trying something completely new.
And having that kind of stimulating effect, right?
Exactly.
Some monks saw it as a distraction.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, some even called it the bitter invention of Satan.
No.
But there were others who realized it could help them stay awake during their long hours of prayer.
So coffee was almost like a spiritual tool at first. That's so different from our coffee breaks today.
Definitely a different vibe.
So how did it get out of the monastery and into the wider world?
That's where things get really interesting. By the 15th century, coffee had made its way across the Red Sea to Yemen.
Oh, wow.
This wasn't just random either. People started intentionally cultivating it.
Makes sense. It was popular.
Exactly. And Yemen's climate and location were ideal.
Perfect for growing coffee.
And from there, coffee spread quickly across the Arab world to Persia, Egypt, Syria, and Turkey.
And that's where the term mocha coffee comes from, right?
Yeah.
Named after a busy port city in Yemen.
You got it. Mocha became this central hub for the coffee trade.
And eventually the name became associated with high-quality coffee, too.
But it wasn't just about the beans themselves. Coffee started to reshape social life.
And that's when we see those traditional coffee houses start to appear.
Exactly. The kava kane.
From what I read, they were more than just places to grab a drink.
Oh, way more.
More like cultural hubs.
Think of them as the social media of their time,
Wow, that's a great way to put it.
They were places where poets, scholars, musicians, thinkers,
All walks of life.
all walks of life would gather. People
Yeah.
would debate, share news, play games, have lively conversations.
All fueled by coffee.
It was a place where ideas were exchanged and communities were built, all fueled by coffee. Yeah.
Wow, so coffee was like the original social lubricant. But I know it wasn't all smooth sailing, especially when coffee reached Europe in the 17th century.
Things definitely got a little rocky.
There was some pushback, right?
It wasn't exactly welcomed with open arms, no.
From what I read, some Europeans viewed coffee with suspicion.
Yeah. It was this dangerous and exotic substance,
Dangerous.
because of its origins in the Muslim world.
Ah, so a bit of cultural clash.
Yeah, some even associated it with infidels.
Really?
I even read that some women in England tried to ban coffee.
They ban it completely.
They claimed it was making men impotent.
Wow. I guess that goes to show how disruptive new ideas can be.
Definitely.
But coffee eventually overcame this resistance.
Yeah, it did, and a major turning point was Pope Clement VIII.
Oh, he's the one who basically gave coffee his blessing.
He did. There's this story that he loved the aroma and taste of coffee so much.
Just couldn't resist it.
He said, "This Satan's drink is so delicious that it would be a pity to let the infidels have exclusive use of it."
I love that story.
Whether it's true or not, it illustrates how coffee was gradually accepted in European society.
From goat herders and monks to popes, it's been quite a journey.
It really has.
So what happened next? How did coffee become such a huge part of European culture?
Well, that acceptance led to a boom in coffeehouse culture across major European cities.
Like,
London, Vienna, Paris, just to name a few.
these weren't just any coffee houses, though, right? I read something about Penny University.
Yes, Penny University.
What were those exactly?
Well, you could get a cup of coffee and join in on discussions.
About what?
Politics, philosophy, current events, all for the price of a penny.
So coffee was like fuel for the mind.
It's fascinating how coffee houses became centers for intellectual and social life.
They were incubators for new ideas and movements.
They really were, playing a crucial role in the Enlightenment and the shaping of modern society.
Coffee's had such an impact.
But coffee's story doesn't stop there. It was about to cross the Atlantic and find its way to the New World.
All right, so we've covered coffee in Ethiopia, the Arab world, and Europe. Next time, we'll explore how coffee took root in the Americas and changed the world yet again.
Can't wait.
So last time, we left off with coffee making a big splash in Europe.
Sparking a coffeehouse revolution.
Now, let's set sail for the Americas and see how coffee made its way to new shores.
And transform societies along the way.
All right, I'm ready for this next chapter.
Coffee's arrival in the Americas, it's full of fascinating stories.
Oh.
One that stands out is about this French naval officer, Gabriel Decleux.
Hey.
In 1723, he was determined to bring coffee to the Caribbean island of Martinique.
Martinique.
He managed to snag a coffee seedling from the King's Garden in Paris.
Wow. Must have been a pretty valuable seedling.
But the journey across the Atlantic, anything but easy.
What happened?
Storms, sabotage, even pirate attacks.
He had to deal with all that just to bring coffee to Martinique.
He was committed to his mission, let me tell you.
I read that he even shared his own water rations with the plant during a drought.
He did. Protected that seedling like it was his own child.
That's dedication.
And he succeeded. That single plant is thought to be the ancestor of millions of coffee trees.
Wow, so that one seedling spread across the Caribbean.
Eventually into Central and South America, too.
It's amazing how something so small could have such a huge impact.
It really is.
How did coffee go from, like, a few seedlings to these massive plantations?
That's where the story takes a more, well, complicated turn.
Complicated how?
Coffee cultivation in the Americas, it's intertwined with colonialism and the transatlantic slave trade.
Oh, right.
European powers wanted to capitalize on coffee's growing popularity and profitability, of course.
So they established these large plantations.
Relied on the forced labor of enslaved Africans.
It's a reminder that coffee's journey, while exciting, is also connected to some pretty dark chapters in history.
It's definitely important to acknowledge those difficult aspects of coffee's past.
Absolutely.
Coffee production in the Americas, especially in Brazil and Colombia, grew at an incredible pace because of the demand in Europe and the United States.
Thinking about the people who worked on those plantations and the conditions they endured is pretty sobering.
It is, and the legacy of colonialism and slavery, it still impacts the coffee industry today.
So what can be done about that?
There are ongoing efforts to address issues of fair trade, sustainable farming, and ethical sourcing.
That sounds promising.
It's something to think about, you know? The choices we make as consumers, they have consequences that ripple across the globe.
So as much as we celebrate coffee, we also need to be aware of those complexities.
It's not just about the taste, it's about the people and the planet involved.
Speaking of historical events,
Yeah.
remember learning about the Boston Tea Party in school?
Of course, how could I forget? Colonists, fed up with British taxes, dumped all that tea into Boston Harbor.
A bold act of defiance.
It was, and it actually had a huge impact on American drinking habits.
Really?
Coffee was seen as this, patriotic alternative to tea.
So its popularity just skyrocketed.
Exactly, became ingrained in American culture.
That's fascinating.
It adds a whole new dimension to coffee's story.
It does. But coffee wasn't just a drink for revolutionaries.
Not at all.
As we move into the 20th century, it becomes more accessible to, well, everyday people.
Instant coffee, which became popular during World War II, played a big part in that.
Instant coffee, the quick and easy way to get your caffeine fix.
I bet it was a lifesaver for soldiers on the front lines.
Makes sense. Convenient and portable.
And that popularity continued after the war, too.
So instant coffee just took over.
Became a staple in homes and offices around the world.
But then there was another innovation that changed the way we drink coffee, right?
You're thinking of espresso.
Espresso. The foundation of so many coffee drinks.
Brought over from Italy.
And it caught on pretty quickly.
Its intense flavor and versatility led to a whole wave of new creations. Lattes, cappuccinos, macchiatos.
It's hard to imagine coffee culture without espresso.
It feels like it's always been there.
But coffee's evolution didn't stop there, did it?
Not even close. In the late 20th century, you see the rise of specialty coffee and what's called the third wave movement.
The third wave.
It's similar to the craft beer revolution.
Okay.
There's a focus on quality, artisanal methods, and a deeper appreciation for where coffee comes from.
And its unique characteristics.
Exactly.
I'm a big fan of this third wave. I love trying different single-origin coffee.
Me too. Experimenting with different brewing methods.
It shows how far coffee has come. From a basic drink to this complex and nuanced experience.
Coffee is constantly evolving, you know?
And now, sustainability, fair trade, social responsibility, they're all shaping the industry's future.
It makes you realize that every cup of coffee connects us to this global network of people and places.
It's not just about the drink, it's about being part of this ongoing story.
Before we move on to how coffee has become such a big part of different cultures around the world, are there any interesting facts about coffee that our listener might not know?
Oh, I bet there are tons.
Did you know that over 2.25 billion cups of coffee are consumed every single day?
Wow. That's a lot of coffee.
It's a pretty good indicator of its global reach, that's for sure.
It is. And speaking of global reach, we talked about the origins of coffee, how it spread across the world.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have. But I'm really curious to explore how coffee has found its place in, traditions and daily life around the world.
It's fascinating how adaptable coffee is, you know.
What do you mean?
It takes on different meanings and roles in different cultures, but it remains this universally loved drink.
That's
It
true.
really speaks to its versatility and its power to, well, bring people together.
I've read about those Ethiopian coffee ceremonies.
Ah, yes.
They seem like such a rich and sensory experience.
They are. Ethiopian coffee ceremonies are a perfect example of how coffee can be at the heart of social and spiritual life.
Really?
These ceremonies, often led by women, involve roasting green coffee beans over a charcoal brazier.
So you can really smell the aroma as the beans roast.
The aroma fills the air, the beans slowly change color,
Sounds amazing.
and then they're ground by hand using a mortar and pestle,
It sounds like a really meditative process.
connecting people to the origins of coffee in a very real way.
I love that. So what happens next?
The freshly brewed coffee is served in small cups without handles.
No handles.
And sharing this coffee, it becomes a symbol of hospitality and community.
It's a time for conversation.
Sharing stories, strengthening bonds,
These ceremonies are a vibrant part of Ethiopian culture.
passed down from generation to generation,
It's amazing how coffee can be both, like a simple daily ritual.
and a deeply meaningful cultural practice.
Speaking of rituals, what about Italian espresso culture?
Ah, Italia.
It's almost synonymous with Italy itself.
Italy's espresso culture is another great example of how coffee has shaped a nation's identity, you know?
How so?
Italians have turned espresso into an art form with a focus on precision, quality, and speed.
I've seen those Italian baristas in action. They're incredible.
A typical Italian espresso bar is buzzing with activity, skilled baristas making shots of espresso with incredible efficiency.
And it's not just about the coffee itself.
It's a social experience,
Grabbing a quick espresso at the bar is like a daily ritual for many Italians.
a chance to connect with friends, catch up on the news, take a moment to just enjoy the day.
It's a microcosm of Italian life, fast-paced, vibrant, and full of flavor.
And this espresso culture has spread far beyond Italy,
Oh, definitely.
influencing the way we experience coffee worldwide, from specialty coffee shops to latte art.
We see echoes of Italian espresso traditions everywhere.
It's really interesting how coffee has traveled across continents, adapting to different cultures.
While still remaining this universal connector.
And I think it's important to acknowledge the growing awareness of sustainability and fair trade in the coffee industry, too.
Absolutely. Consumers are definitely more conscious of how their coffee choices affect coffee farmers and the environment.
They're demanding more transparency from coffee companies.
They want to know where their coffee comes from, how it was grown.
And how farmers are being treated, of course.
That shift toward ethical consumption is so important.
Certifications like fair trade and organic.
Those reflect this growing concern for sustainable and equitable practices.
It's encouraging to see that people are recognizing the power they have to make a difference through their choices.
Every cup of coffee can be a vote for a better world.
By choosing fair trade and sustainably sourced coffee, we can help improve the lives of farmers, protect the environment.
And ensure a more equitable future for the coffee industry.
It's a delicious way to make a positive impact.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of coffee,
It's been a journey.
from those humble origins in Ethiopia to its global reach,
Coffee has shaped cultures, fueled revolutions, connected people across continents.
it's amazing.
The next time you enjoy a cup of coffee, remember the complex history, the cultural significance, and the human effort that went into creating that single cup.
I will.
It's a reminder that coffee is so much more than just a drink. It's a global phenomenon that continues to evolve and captivate us.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this, well, caffeinated adventure. We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the world of coffee. Now go out and explore that vast and delicious world with, a newfound appreciation for its incredible journey. And if you come across any cool coffee facts, we'd love to hear them. Until next time, happy caffeinating.